Okay, so the spreadsheet is dead, long live the spreadsheet, and yes, it's open source. So my name is Anais. I am co-CEO at Grist, and we're working on an open source spreadsheet database hybrid. We're taking what people love about spreadsheets, and we're improving them by addressing difficult spreadsheet problems. So spreadsheets have been around longer than computers. There's something about the endless grid that makes it possible for us to organize just about any kind of data. This is a Babylonian tablet circa 1400 BC, showing numbers in cuneiform. Listed in here is that 3,000 oxen were sent to Nippur from far away in order to plow the nearby fields. So it's a project management app. Spreadsheets are the original low-code platform. You can build just about any business application, whether it's a CRM, inventory manager, payroll tracker, a forecasting model, you name it. And spreadsheet formulas are a well-known programming language. It's a way to bring business logic to your data. But another thing that people love about spreadsheets is that they are self-contained. You can send your data and that business logic in a file to anyone who has compatible software to open it. And spreadsheets have their limitations. They can do a lot, but I'm sure you're all familiar with that spreadsheet that by now should probably just be an app. They don't have a relational database structure, which means integrations are unstable. Often they're not well organized. They don't scale well. User permissions are usually restricted to password-protected sheets and cells. And for companies that can't use cloud-based services for security reasons, anything in a local Excel file is often siloed and stale. Some of these problems have been solved. So Google Sheets, Excel 365 made it possible to collaborate, but user permissions are still clunky. And the hybrids, the spreadsheet database hybrids like Airtable and Monday, they address the structural and relational issues, but they gave up a lot. You don't have those spreadsheet shortcuts. If you were here for Michael's, he had that list. It's very important for spreadsheet users. And also, they don't have robust real formula support. Also, the cloud options lock you in. You can't export your database, which means it's harder to share your solution, and it undermines the work that you did in the app. And no one has solved the hard problems around collaboration. So Grist is an evolution of that. So Grist keeps what people like about spreadsheets: real formula support, portability, formatting, shortcuts, all this. This is what this list is, just the expectations that people have with spreadsheets, but then adds on what you need to have a truly useful business application. So that means extending it with custom views. It means having granular user permissioning. So in Grist, you can set user roles and determine who can see or edit what in a table, in a column, in a row, down to a cell. And also, it can run anywhere, on-prem, in the cloud, on the desktop. You control your data, zero trust required. Oh, and on the collaboration side, we recently released a feature that lets a collaborator offer changes, and a maintainer can accept or reject them, so it's like a pull request for a spreadsheet. This is where I was going to do the demo, but it's not going to work, I don't think. Well, actually, hold on, let's see. This is because how am I going to switch? Nope, that's not going to work at all, is it? Let me try this. Okay, we're getting somewhere. No, this mirroring is not great. I wanted to show you Grist, what it looks like. But it's going to be kind of hard without the mirroring to well, okay. What we have is an example here of an organization that is working with people who need housing or food or legal aid. So here they have intakes. Somebody has come into the office requesting support, and they keep track of customer information, so like a CRM. So here it feels very much like a spreadsheet. We have columns and rows, data types, it's structured. A Grist file is very portable. .grist is based on SQLite. We have here choices. And when I move the cursor to another row, you can see that on the bottom left, there's a client card updating. So that's the related client. The client that is here is what you're seeing on the bottom. And we can also view this the other way. We can look at clients, and as we go through clients, look at the intakes related to them. Grist also has formula support for both spreadsheet functions. Here we have like a date diff, or it supports Python natively. Multi-line Python formulas, the full standard library. So it really opens up what you can do. Okay, I am doing this at a distance. Okay, here we go. Also reporting, so you can have charts that show you summaries either as pivot tables that update as the underlying data is updated. And I had mentioned these custom widgets. So this is a way to write a little bit of front-end code and then bring that view to read or write into your Grist database and still link it in the dashboarding system that we have here. So you can see that the point is moving around as I move on the rows. And the last thing I wanted to show were those granular access rules. So here we have John. John works in Annapolis doing legal aid. So what I want is when John comes here, John should only see Annapolis and nothing else. So I'm going to view this as John. Let's see. So here he is only seeing Annapolis. This is not just a UI feature, this is a real security feature. So he is working on the same copy as anyone else. He can make edits and changes, and only people who should see the rows that pertain to the Annapolis office will see them. And let's see if I can, am I gonna risk a keyboard shortcut on a computer? I don't know, let's see. Let's say he enters new client information. He can select from the existing clients that are in the database, or maybe he is going to add someone new. He's gonna add Jack. And then here on the client's card, he has a workflow where he can come in here, he can put in a date of birth. Let's see, nope, that's not gonna work. Okay, I'm getting somewhere. And fill in this information. And over in the client's card, it's the same underlying tables. It's just views on the same table. So you're gonna see Jack in here, somewhere if I can scroll. So there's Jack, who I just added. And because of the date of birth, that formula that calculated its age updated, because formulas are happening over a column. The data is structured. So it's not like you need to be updating formula arrays. And the last thing would be, so what are his team members seeing? Jessica is in Annapolis, so she should see this new Jack entry. Emily is in Washington, she should not. So let's come over here. Let's view this as Jessica. So Jessica can see Jack in Annapolis, and Emily works in Washington. She only sees what's happening in Washington. And what might be happening in this organization or before Grist is they might have had a template for the Washington office and a template for the Annapolis office, and then management has to consolidate and merge these when they get a report on a monthly beat or whatever it is. And if someone's off on vacation, well, we have to wait until the next month. So we'll come back to the slideshow. So that's Grist. So what we're doing is we're building end-user productivity software. So in order to really compete with well-funded tools like Excel and Airtable, Grist needs a sizable investment. And that money really should be coming from the people who get the most benefit out of Grist, which means we're building for users. We're not really building for contributors. This is different. Most champions of Grist are technical. They care about the open source. But most end users of Grist, they're not going to read the README. They don't know it exists. They won't file a GitHub issue. They don't know what GitHub is. They're not going to self-host. They don't contribute to Grist. And they don't know what open source is. They're evaluating all of the tools, not just open source tools. And what they care about is functionality, usability, onboarding, and support. And even for the technical champions, they might prefer Grist because it's open source. They know for technical reasons why that's a better bet. They like the ideals, but they know that their boss and everybody else in the company cares about that. So they also care about functionality, usability, onboarding, and support when bringing it into a company or when pitching it to a boss. So at large organizations, open source is rarely why they'll choose Grist. It has to be because it actually solves a problem. So how does this end user profile impact strategy at Grist? So we currently have 10 people on the team, and 3 of them are full-time devs. A lot of activity is spent making templates, educational videos, webinars, and we even offer everyone on our SaaS a 30-minute free coaching call, because if you get that first solution working right, and we can help you within those first 30 minutes, Grist is very sticky. Once you get that solution, you tend to start building other things. And how does this affect product decisions? So it means that sometimes we have to pause and take a step back and look at usability, not just functionality. So this example was a couple years ago. We spent about 2 months just adding a new add column menu, just changing it, because people needed help doing common shortcuts, formulas, setting up column types. It was 2 months mostly focused on design and planning because we saw users were struggling with this. There was no new functionality here. Okay, so that's all well and good, but now we get to the how do we pay for this? Where's the money part of it? So we tried the SaaS and support model, and it didn't pay or align with our values, and I'll explain why. So I changed up this meme everyone knows and that you've seen. So it didn't pay because it was just small amounts of money that wasn't scaling quick enough for the few companies that were paying, which means it would take a long time to cover expenses and unlikely that we'll ever get the kind of funding we need to stay competitive against something like Excel or Airtable. And what ended up happening is who was paying us? It was small companies that don't have the in-house skills to self-host, or maybe don't even know what self-hosting is, or they don't have the infrastructure. But large organizations, I'm talking multinational enterprises, huge governments, city governments, national, foundations with billions in funding, they were using the self-hosted version. And okay, maybe we made self-hosting a little too easy because that's, we believe in it. But then they didn't have to pay anything. So ultimately, we were scraping by a few $100s at a time from tiny little companies that was supporting all of that usage. And that didn't feel fair. So yeah, a couple years ago, we started building some proprietary features. And that felt bad, so we made some rules. So one of the rules is, I mentioned Grist files are portable. So one of the rules is, if you make a Grist document in the enterprise version and you migrate it to the open source version, it shouldn't break. It should still work. So the functionality has to be sort of around that, not tied to the functionality of a particular solution. And also, both strategically and to respect the community, switching between the open source and the proprietary versions is literally a toggle in the admin panel. So you have one Grist image, it defaults to the open source, but you hit a toggle, and now you can trial for 30 days the proprietary one, and if you don't want it, you can go back, no fuss. So the way we try to differentiate between what goes in the open source version and what goes in the proprietary version is proprietary tends to be governance and advanced security that the installation administrator really cares about, like audit log streaming. Sometimes it'll also be features that require installation configuration to work. This starts to get fuzzy, but for example, we have an AI assistant. You need a key for that to work. So that one can get fuzzy. I'm not going to pretend it's easy, but my last slide is real choices that we've made. How did we make those choices? So the first one is what we're working on now. I mentioned the pull request for a spreadsheet. That's in the open source version. And that's because from a values perspective, that is core to the collaboration, which is what we really care about. But strategy actually aligned with values here because that is a potentially viral feature. The goal is to have groups of people collaborating on a data set. So the more groups of people who do this with little friction, the better. More people who become aware of Grist. So we look for opportunities for now while we can where values and business strategy aligns. In the middle, we also started giving out free enterprise keys, proprietary keys, to individuals and organizations making less than $1 million US million per year. Why? Well, values, we didn't start doing this to nickel and dime the little guy. It was trying to incentivize large orgs to pay. And strategy, well, we want the full version of Grist to be the main version. Often what happens is community is the main version, and people are dragged kicking and screaming to proprietary when they hit a limit. Here we're saying, no, the main version is the full version, and if you can pay, you should and you have to. But if you're small, have fun. And then in the other direction, why did we make something proprietary? So we have email notifications and also some role-level notification rules. You can say when this value changes to this, email these people, that kind of thing. Well, on the value side, it doesn't break a document. If you migrate that document somewhere else, it still works. You can still collaborate on that. And on the strategy side, those kinds of workflow automation features enterprises really care about. That's the kind of stuff they'll ask for in a discovery call. And we do need to make money somehow. So that one doesn't break one of our rules. So that's how we end up there. And that's what I wanted to talk about is how do we make decisions building a product? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I muted this. Thank you so much. We're going to do a seamless transition from this talk to the next. So if you need to leave, please do it very quietly. If you have any questions, then now's the time. Please.
Yeah. Oh. Hello.
What's the what's the most common pushback you get from customers you lost or you didn't acquire?
You mean turnover?
Turnover.
We had them
no, well, in the pitches, like they come to you and they say, "No, we picked something else."
Normally, it's actually our core. We're competing against the open source version. Often what they'll say is, normally when people come to Grist, they're solving one initial problem, that load-bearing Excel. That should be an app. And they're like, right now, it's just not enough people using it internally for me to justify this. I'm going to get by on the open source. So typically, we'll lose them there, but they'll kind of stay in touch. That tends to be it, really. Mm-hmm.
If there are no more questions.
You mentioned the ability to write Python code. What about performances? Is it okay when you process a lot of data?
Yeah, so Grist works best for about 100,000 rows in each database because of what you're talking about. Yeah, it can be more if you have if you're not using as many formulas. It kind of depends on what those formulas are like. A very big clunky one can slow down a document, but in the hundreds of thousands of rows, you get decent performance. And what I've seen some clever customers do is they'll actually use the API for specific heavy calculations, port that data out, do it somewhere else, bring it back in. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anais, for your great presentation, playing along even though with technical difficulties. Don't forget to log out.